Today I'd like to chat with you about tracking used time with ETM. Why might you be interested in doing this? Well, you might need professionally to account for the time you spend. More generally, you might believe, as I do, that the first step in managing a scarce resource is knowing how it is used. Well, you can see I've started ETM up in a test directory. I haven't created any reminders yet, so this is a blank slate. First thing I'm going to do is to press F5 and load the lorem examples, generate and load them. It's working now, and the reminders have been generated and loaded. The first thing I want to talk about are the views that are built into ETM that support seeing how your time has been spent. And the first of these views is called completed view. That's activated by pressing C, and you can see it pops up again for the current week. As with the other week views, the cursor keys go backward and forward, and the space bar goes to the current week. Now, looking at these examples, you can see that this task shows up twice. Why is that? Well, the second entry with the check mark means that the task was finished on April the 10th. And the first entry without the check mark means that the task has a used time entry of 30 minutes. You can see that up here in the right-hand column, and you can see the actual entry right here, at U 30 minutes, recorded on 2023, April 10. So the used time shows up in both places, and this is, you can see in the week view, you can see exactly how your time has been spent, at least to the extent that you've recorded used time entries. So that's one of the main views. The other main view are the aggregate views, the used time view. So here's the used time view for April. I got that by pressing U. And you can see that it shows aggregates of the time spent. So here's that task showing up with the 30 minutes that was spent on April the 10th. You can see other projects, and within each, if there was more than one used time entry, then those times will be aggregated and the totals reported. The other thing to note is the way that this view is organized. The totals are grouped first by month, then by client, and then by project. Where did that stuff come from? Well, let me open up one of these and look at the index entries. That's the key here. So all the index entries in the example file have this two-level hierarchy. The name of the client first, and then the project name second. And as long as these entries take that format, the grouping for the used time entries will reflect it. So let me go back to the used time view, and let me show you the used time summary view by pressing Cap U. And you can see it groups, it gives the totals for the months by month, then client. Here's the total for that client. That total is broken down into two projects, and those are the totals for those two projects. Similarly for client B and client C. So if you're billing for the time spent, these views support that ideally. How to add used time entries to reminders? Well, one way possible, though difficult, would be to keep track of the used time using, say, a stopwatch, and then to actually open a reminder for editing and manually insert the used time entry. So for example, let's open this fella up. We can add at U. Let's say we spent 42 minutes and just finished right now, so I can shortcut the entry by adding now. And there's no index entry for this, so this is not going to appear in the use time views unless I add an index entry. So let's do that. At I, and you see there's completion, so I can scroll down through every client name and project that has been used so far and just select the one. Okay, and then press Control S to save, and now the index entry will be recorded. Let me open it up. See, there it is. Recorded 11:47 a.m. right current moment. And there's the index entry completed. So that's one way, but as I say, that's the hard way. The easy way is to use ETM's built-in timers. Since the use time entries will ultimately be inserted into a reminder, step one is to make sure the relevant reminders, tasks, or events all exist and have index entries. Step two is to associate a timer with each of the relevant reminders. Let's suppose we're beginning a new day and illustrate how the workflow might begin. Let's suppose that we have some tasks already created that we want to work on today. And so these tasks already have index entries and so forth, so they're all set to have timers associated with them. But let's begin by creating one additional task. Whatever, I call this a whatever task. So here we go. Cap in to create a new item, task, whatever, at start, plus 0 days today. No index entry or anything. This is just to have a task ready. I'm going to associate a timer with it that will be ready if I get a phone call or something else unexpected happens. I won't have to bother with creating anything. I'll already have a timer ready to go to record the time I spend. And then when I have a moment and the details are fresh in my mind, I can go back and change this to an appropriate entry and create another whatever entry to take its place. So there we go. Whatever shows up in the today view. Now that I have all the relevant tasks ready, I'll associate timers with each, and this is the easiest thing of all. So let's go down to whatever, and I'm going to press Cap T, and that's going to create a timer and associate it with this task. Let's say I also want to work on this one that's due tomorrow. T for that, and the one that's due 5 days from now. If I have time, I'll get to that. Now let me go to the Do Next view and scroll down, and let's say there are a couple of tasks here that I also would like to work on if time permits. So again, the Shift T, Cap T, associates a timer with each of these. Now let me go to timer view. That is bound to little m. Think of that as time is money, M for money. And here are all the timers that I have created and the tasks that they are associated with. You see that whatever, the one I created first, became the so-called active timer, but paused. That's the P in the far right-hand column. The rest are inactive. So timer view should be thought of as kind of the default view for the day when I'm doing this workflow. So here I am in timer view ready to start my day. You can see that the whatever timer is paused, and if you look down in the status bar, it has been in that state for almost 2 minutes now. That's how long it's been since I created the timer. So let's go down. Suppose I want to work on this guy first. I press Shift T, Cap T to start the timer running. You notice that that reminder jumped to the top of the list. The active timer will always be at the top of the list. And whether or not it's selected, pressing T twice will pause it, and pressing Cap T twice will restart it again. So if I get a phone call and I have to interrupt my work on that, I can pause it and then go back and restart it. Now I suppose I've been working for a while on the top item. You can see the timer's running. It's been about 6 minutes. And I get that proverbial phone call, whatever. So I shift up to whatever, and I just press Cap T. And notice that it goes to the top of the list, becomes active, and starts running. So I can now deal with the phone call, however long that takes. And when it's done, I can go back to the one that I was working on before, press Cap T on that one, and it goes back to the top and starts running. So the switching back and forth is very transparent. And again, T twice always pauses the active item, active timer, whether it's selected or not. Cap T twice restarts it. So you can switch back and forth, multitask to your heart's desire, and all is good. Okay, it's the end of the day. It's time to close out and record the timers. You might think I've had a pretty short day. I only recorded a total of 13.8 minutes of time spent, but this is just an exercise after all. So anyway, I'll show the drill for just one of the items. Let's go to the top one, and we'll hit TR for record. And you can see that it fills in everything. The 13 minutes of elapsed time, the fact that date it was recorded, and the time that I am doing the recording. And all I have to do is click OK, and it disappears from the timer list, and whatever comes up next, I can edit that and save that time as well. And then for other timers, I can press TD to delete the timer, so I'll have a clean slate to start tomorrow. I'll suppose that I've dealt with that and deleted it as well. So back to a blank slate on timers for the next day. Well, let me wrap up in completed view. You can see there the two entries for today, the 42 minutes that I recorded manually earlier, and the 13 minutes that were just recorded. Now, the very observant among you may have noticed that the 13.4 minutes got converted to 13 minutes when it was actually recorded. Why is that? Because the use time minute setting and configuration file is set to 1, which means that times when recorded are rounded off to the nearest minute and recorded as such. So the 13.4 got rounded off to 13. There are other settings. 6, for example, means to round up to the nearest 6th minute, 1/10 of an hour, and record that. And there are other similar settings depending on how times are rounded off or rounded up for the practice that you engage in. That's all for today. I hope this was helpful. Thank you.